The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 560, Mr. Somich.
Big ol' Whitney, huzzah!
Oh, man, it's Whitney weekend. The racing in Saratoga, even if it chalks out, which we're hoping it's not because we want to make money, but the stars on Whitney weekend, man, they always pop out at Saratoga. It's such an exciting time. Of course, we're back at Saratoga, and it's nice that there are no restrictions on us covering Saratoga anymore. If you are a Twin Spires bettor, I apologize, but this is your friendly reminder that FanDuel, you can sign up on the FanDuel racing app and you can play Saratoga there if you can't play on Twin Spires. So
there you go.
That's that. But hey, it's good to have you back. We have not been together in, I think this is the first time in a month, 3 weeks. It's been a while. It's
been a minute. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think we did
2 weeks ago. You're right.
Yeah. But it's definitely been a minute, and it's always interesting. We got Saratoga going on during these. Looks like the three Mech Diesels about to run away from the field. It is really interesting playing Saratoga on a day in and day out basis, especially when you have rain. And we got quite a bit of rain yesterday into the morning, into the afternoon. Saw the races come off the turf in the morning. The track plays completely different every time there's a big storm. Like it always changes, even if it's just a little bit that it just adjusts itself. And right now, Inside Speed specifically playing very well. We'll see if Mac Diesel able to hold off Iron Max in the stretch here and continue that. But it is wild to see the adjustments to this dirt track every single time it rains.
Dirt track makes it a super fast track favoring the speed, but hopefully by Saturday it's playing a little more fair because I know we're taking a look at the all stakes pick 5. It's races 7 through 11, not the late pick 5. That's 9 through 13, but 7 through 11 all stakes. 4 of them are graded. Possibly the toughest one is the only one that isn't graded. That's the Lure Stakes, and that's for horses that have not won a graded stakes race in 2024. And then of course the Whitney itself, a winning year for the Classic. We also have a track record, a world record holder, Cogburn, returning to the scene of that crime in the Jaipur Stakes, but he's not going to be any kind of a price to play to win. But we've got a fun slate. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it, buddy. Ride it up. All right, Mike, kicking off the all stakes pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd, race 7. It's the grade 1 Saratoga Derby. We've got 8 3-year-old males routing a mile and 3/16 on the outer turf course. Aidan O'Brien's here. Charlie Appleby's here. Somehow, well, probably because of that, Chad Brown is 8-1 in a grade 1 race on the turf at Saratoga. Where'd you go on top?
Yeah, who knew? Getting a price on Chad Brown, and only one Chad Brown. Not also, like normally we're used to seeing like 3 or 4 Chad Browns in these type of spots.
Yeah.
Look, I like quite a few horses in here, but to me, it's hard to not respect the Europeans. And Diego Velasquez coming over here with, and we've talked about this before, but whenever you've got more riding as well for O'Brien, you got to watch out. And Moore comes over here on an O'Brien horse. It's not the Appleby Buick combo, but don't worry, we've got that too. We'll talk about it in a second. But Aidan O'Brien and Moore do not invade Saratoga nearly as much as Buick and Appleby invade Saratoga. You got to think that this is a horse in the 4 Diego Velasquez who's going to be 100% ready to go. It's awfully interesting that you see him run well on a good track too. This is one of those where maybe they think that the firmer going is going to be a positive, although it did run well on a heavy track, 3-2, and that was in a grade 1. The win last time in a grade 3, probably good enough to beat this field. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line here is if we can repeat the effort last time, should be good to go. And then the other thing when you look at this is, okay, well, what do we think the pace is going to look like? Is there someone that's going to be able to go gate to wire on these European horses? The 4 has some speed. I think that's important. So it's not going to be one of those that's just dead last in this race or shouldn't be dead last. But on top of that, you've got speed in both the 1 and 2 post. You've got speed in the outside White Palomino as well, the 8 horse. I think there's going to be enough pace for the 4 to chase here. So I put the 4 Diego Velasquez on top.
And I have no problem with you putting him on top. That Meld Stakes victory last time out was facing older horses, and it was a nice Group 3 in Ireland at Leopardstown. He seems to be a horse that wants this firmer going. He has run on the softer stuff. Two back at Royal Ascot, he was the 2-1 favorite in a Group 2 in a field of 14, and I think the longer distance probably hurt him a bit as well there. But he's got a mid-pack trip that he likes to sit when he's most successful. This race really doesn't have a ton of pace. And we've seen this so many times at Saratoga, especially on the turf, when they're going 2 turns. It's like, okay, someone's going to go out there, set a dawdling pace. And if you're not close up early, you're kind of screwed. So it all works in his favor. I did put Legend of Time on top. I gave him the very slight edge just because he's got the experience already in America. Diego Velasquez shipping into America for the first time. Won the Pennine Ridge 2 races back. Legend of Time did. He had more pace to chase in that race than he did last time out in the Belmont Derby. He also had it wasn't Buick's fault. He was just stuck inside and couldn't really advance when he needed to. And then by the time he got going, just a little bit too late for him. So we're both in agreement. 3 and 4 are the must uses here. We each went 3 deep, and we went with a longer shot horse to go with. I'll let you talk about the 7 Royal Majesty, who you're using at 12-1.
Yeah, I'm going to use the 7 here. This race just sets up differently. I mean, you talked about the pace the last race. Well, the pace 2 back when Legend of Time won and White Palomino ran second wasn't exactly fast either. And I liked the closing move that he put in that race. He just didn't quite get there in time. I felt like he ran a good Belmont Derby and just kind of chased them around, but they went really slow and it didn't really help him out. He wants pace to set up. You go back to the allowance 3 back at Keeneland when he had some pace to run into. We saw him close very, very well there. You go back to the Gulfstream race where he broke his maiden, again, has pace to chase there and comes home doing sub 12s there too. So to me, we've seen the talent. The problem is both of those races are with Lasix. That's my biggest concern about this horse. But those are also the 2 times he's had pace. So I'm not going to just say, oh, well, it's Lasix that did it. I think it's more the pace that really helped him out. Like I mentioned, there's 3 horses that have pace in here. And if I'm going to take a shot with one of these U.S. horses, I want to take a shot with the price. Royal Majesty 12-1 is your second longest shot on the board outside of the 1 horse, Izzy d'Oro, who's 30-1. So I'm going to take a little bit of a swing here against the 2 Europeans in a race where I think all of the Americans have about the same chance of winning. And so if that's the case, I'm going to take a bigger price than take someone who's a little bit shorter, like Carson's Run, who I thought about, like White Palomino, who I thought about. So for me, the 7 Royal Majesty was the last one on the ticket there.
His dam Crown Queen also raced in the States for Bill Mott, and she won 4 straight turf routes at age 3, including the Queen Elizabeth II Cup, a Grade 1 race at Keeneland. She won the Lake Placid Stakes, going a mile and 1/8 here at Saratoga. She won it a mile and 3/16 at Saratoga, an allowance race. So there's a lot of talent. If you look at who some of her other foals have been by, so this one's by Frankel. We talk about how Frankel stands for almost $450,000. So if you got that kind of money, maybe you could, sign up for a date with Frankel. But then also Kingman. She's got a 2-year-old filly by Kingman right now who's getting ready to get going. There's a 3-year-old colt by, 4-year-old colt by Dubawi. He's been racing for Roger Varian overseas. So really well-bred and given lots of attention to the top stallions overseas. I think this horse, he's got a great chance to finish like 3rd, maybe even 2nd in a photo. I think he's going to be coming late. I didn't see like that move forward is going to get him to win. If he wins, it won't surprise me. But I didn't use him. I did put White Palomino on the ticket instead. It's Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt at Saratoga. So automatically for me, it's probably going to be almost a must use for me. But this horse, the last 2 races, Belmont Derby, Pennine Ridge, set the pace, broke from an inside post in a races completely lacking pace, and just kind of, ran in place and got caught right at the wire. But if you go 3 back going this distance at Keeneland, Jose Ortiz was aboard, took the horse back into like a good stalking pocket position, and then rallied past and ended up winning by 2 lengths. So from the 8 post, I know some people are looking at this going, well, he's a pace horse. He's got to break from post 8. It's not going to line up for him. I think it actually is going to force Flavian Pratt to not go to the lead and actually say, we're going to tuck back into 2nd, let somebody else go try and set the pace and see what that. I think the 1 Izzy d'Oro is your most likely leader. Breaking from the rail has been first at the first point of call in the last 2 starts. So I'd like to see that horse go. Kuino, who neither of us are using, went gate to wire in the Audubon Stakes. So I think there's enough pace inside of White Palomino that he can pull back. It'll be like 3, 4, 8 right there in that kind of second flight of horses going around the turn. Is that how you saw the pace breakdown as well?
It is. I think the 1 has to go, right? I think we both agree with that. I think the 2 probably wants to be forwardly placed, but I think the 2, Kuino, tries to pocket up. And that is a bad thing for the 8 in my mind. I envision White Palomino getting that 2 wide chasing trip the entire time. And that was one of the big reasons why I was like, that's just not a trip I want on this Saratoga turf when you're uncovered and you're too wide on both turns. If White Palomino can get behind the 1 and the 2, if for some reason they go and he gets behind them, all of a sudden I think his chances increase exponentially. But it's really going to be all about what you get into that first turn here with White Palomino, and if you can save ground or if you are that horse chasing, because the likelihood of winning from the chasing trip is low, and the likelihood of winning from the pocket trip is better. I wouldn't say high, but better. So it's really important that Palomino doesn't end up in that second spot too wide on both of these turns if he wants to win the race.
We brought up Kuino and Irad Ortiz Jr. hopping aboard for the first time for Shug McGahee. Now, Flavian Pratt was aboard in the Autobahn, went gate to wire. Pratt sticking with White Palomino. Chris Maello asked, no interest in Kuino. For me, it was, I don't want this horse in this field at a 3-1 morning line. I'm going to need like 8-1 odds, 10-1 odds to play him against this group.
Yeah, the two Churchill races are tough, right? Because the race 2 back was on the Derby Day card. That race was an absolute mess. You can tell by the prices that were there. All 3 horses over 20-1. Now we've seen Trakiri obviously be better than that price and probably mispriced. Laganos also run better since then, and then you could argue was mispriced in that race. Came back and really just got everything his own way, right? In that last race in the Autobahn, just absolutely cruised up front. Never really had any type of contention. I think you're going to get more like the Transylvania trip. I kind of agree with you where you're going to be close to the pace, but not necessarily on it. And this is to me, a really big step up in class from what he's seen the last 2 races. And that was the biggest issue is that, like you said, the 3-1 price jumping up in class and also getting, back to a trip where we didn't see the best effort. Like he clearly ran better on the lead. I just don't think he makes the lead today. And when you combine that with the fact that the price is sitting there and like, probably if you just rank talent wise 4th best horse in this field, maybe 5th, right? And you're sitting at 3-1, that makes it really, really hard to get behind him energetically.
Yeah, I'd put him 5th. I'd put the 2 European imports, Appleby and O'Brien's horses. I put White Palomino up there, and I would put Royal Majesty up there because I think Royal Majesty's got talent and has some big upside as well. Second leg of the All-Stakes Pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd. Race 8 is the Grade 1 Test Stakes for 6 3-year-old fillies sprinting 7 furlongs on the main track. Where'd you go on top here?
This is I'm going to cause some trouble in this race because I'm not going to use the 4 ways and means, which I'm sure is going to get a little bit of catch a little slack here. But I wanted to beat one of these favorites, and I thought ways and means was the favorite I want to try and beat. I put the 6 horse Brightwork on top. We've seen Brightwork do this before. I've singled Brightwork against ways and means before. Hit a huge pick 5 because of it. And look, this is a really aggressive placement from John Ortiz to come back in this spot. We haven't seen this horse since the Breeders' Cup. But this horse loves Saratoga, 2 for 2 over the course, beat Ways and Means in the Grade 1 Spinamate way, going this distance over this track. And I don't see a ton of pace in here. I kind of think it might be Brightwork. I think Brightwork might be the one who ends up on the lead. If not, it's going to be the other horse I'm going to be using in here. Spoiler, not Ways and Means either. When you see horses come back like this, where they're clearly sprinters, and that's what we saw with Brightwork, right? This horse was clearly a sprinter. They got aggressive, went for a Grade 1, going 2 turns at Keeneland, then went to Santa Anita, went in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Didn't work out. She doesn't want a mile and 16. She wants 6 furlongs. She wants 7 furlongs. She's getting back to what she wants. And the price is incredible. There's no way she should be 6-1. We'll see what we actually get when this horse goes off. But I put Brightwork on top, who is coming back off the layoff for a barn that does it very well. $2.80 ROI off these type of layoffs, getting back to a distance and a track she loves. And I get to play against the horse who I think is going to be the most singled horse in this sequence, which is crazy considering who's in the next one. But I do think Ways and Means gets singled more than Cogburn does because of who else is in this field. And I get to play against a horse that she's beaten before. So give me the 6 here, Brightwork.
You think Ways and Means to be most single? You've got You've got Cogburn and you've got National Treasure still to go in the sequence as well. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. You could be right about it. It's a 6-horse field and people like to single a short field like that. So
yeah, you think about field size and what the race is, right? 7 furlong fillies sprinting with a absolute monster number last time out for Ways and Means compared to, a 12 horse field turf sprinting. That's a race people generally look to spread versus look to single. And even in the Whitney, yes, you've got National Treasure there, but you've got 4 or 5 other horses I think people are semi-excited about. And I also think people will be like, well, I have a price I really like in both of those races where they can say, oh, I like a 10-1. I like an 8-1. I don't want to exclude those off my ticket. Here, like, unless you like Blues Bluebell, there isn't one of those prices. And that because of that, I think more people end up singling horses like Ways and Means because of the short field and the fact that there isn't, 2 10-to-1s you like in the race that you'd have to use on your ticket.
Well, I'd like to say that I was creative, but I chalked out. I was a chalk-eating weasel. I'm proud to be a chalk-eating weasel here. I did put the 4 Ways and Means on top. You look at her breeding, practical joke out of a Warriors Reward mare that screams, mile at best for her, and 1-turn horse, right? And if you scratch off the Kentucky Oaks, which was in the slop and a mile and 8 way too far for her, I still think 4th after pressing that early pace was not horrible, but she bounced back in such a big way last time out in that first level allowance with just a huge, like almost, over 8 length win here. She will get bet heavily. She was 20-cent favorite that day. She's going to be sub even money here, but I think that this is a perfect distance for her. She was half a length away from beating Brightwork. By the way, if you hear squealing in the background, Shotty's at Gen Con, and she heard that Mike put Brightwork on top, and she loves Brightwork more than John Ortiz was, who's the trainer. So Shotty and I got to meet Brightwork back at the San Anita barn during the Breeders' Cup, and she's been excited for this horse to return for a long time. If Brightwork wins, if I lose this sequence, I want it to be because Brightwork won this race. I love her. I just didn't want to use her off the layoff. It's such a tough ass to go into a grade 1 after a very long layoff. But she does like Saratoga, like you said. Also, who likes Saratoga is the horse we agreed on in here, and that's the 1 horse Emery. 2 Brad Cox horses, neither of us using Denim and Pearls. I think the Beaumont Stakes 2 back is just kind of overblown for Denim and Pearls, but Emery, every single start this year has been an improvement. Wins by 5 1/4 lengths at Keeneland, going 6 furlongs. It's an 82 buyer. Then goes to the 7 furlong Leslie's Lady Stakes at Churchill, wins by 3.5. It's an 86 buyer. And then the grade 3 victory ride at 6.5 furlongs. She had to work hard to win that one, but notice that Mystic Lake, who was second that day, was almost 6 lengths clear of third, and Mystic Lake kind of got things her own way on the front end. So that 90 buyer, you're getting Tyler Gaffleone, who's 3 for 6 riding for Brad Cox at Saratoga in the last 2 years. That's pretty nuts. 39% together. Move over Florent Giroux. Let's get Tyler Gaffleone riding some more Cox horses.
Yeah, look, it's crazy. It's ridden very well for them, and this is a horse that just keeps getting better. I think you did a great job mentioning the Beaumont 2 back for Denim and Pearls. That race clearly overblown, and you don't have anything else on the page that's even close to it. So, in a field like this where the waters get deeper, really for everybody. I mean, that's one of the things. Like you could say, oh well, Emery's stepping up in class. Ways and Means is stepping up in class too. And I'll talk about Emery before I go off about Ways and Means in a second here, and specifically the Wilson shoot going a mile there at Saratoga. But Emery just keeps getting better. Every single start keeps getting better, keeps passing the test. And you come back, you run your first race as a 3-year-old, you're an N1X allowance, you get a win there, you jump up to a stakes race, get the win there, jump up to a grade 3, get the win there. Like this horse has just kind of gone through the progression, and every single time has gotten better as she has gone through the progression as well, which I think is important to note. It's not a horse that you're like, oh, well, this effort was good and this one was bad. This is a horse that just consistently keeps getting better and better. And I would expect that Emery gets a little bit better again here. So I was just 1-6 here. And one of the reasons I'm not using the 4, outside of the fact that I do think this horse is just going to get bet absolutely off the board. The Wilson shoot at Saratoga is one of the toughest tracks to make a number for. And it like when you watch races, it's very hard to go gate to wire going a mile at Saratoga. You almost always see the winner come from on the pace, but not at close to the pace, but not on the pace. But the problem is you have so many bad horses, not bad, so many lower level claiming races that are going out of that Wilson shoot that you see like miles in 138 and 140 and just exhausted horses coming home, especially when the track is deep there. And because of that, when you get a day where it's lightning fast, and by the way, on June 6th, it was lightning fast, right? There was no variant for the track bias there. So it was as quick as Saratoga can be. And you see a horse like Ways and Means do it so easily against a field that's 8 that weren't very good. You're going to just hype that horse up. And I don't think the 104 is legit, like from a buyer perspective. To me, that was more of the low 90s, mid 90s type buyer race. And when you dive into it, it's not as good of a race as I think it looks on paper. And it just sets up for a chance to bet against the horse. Because like I said, you had a horse who was playing perfectly toward the track bias of where it's at. You had a horse that was against much worse horses than she is. And it just sets up perfectly for Ways and Means to run a monster number in a monster spot and then come back over bet. And if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and try and go against her. And I agree with Chris here. Like, if I think that 104 isn't legit, she's not that far ahead of the rest of this field. And if that's the case, if that was a 92, a 93, she's 2-1 in this race, not 7-5 getting bet down to 4-5, 3-5. So because of that specific race and because of how difficult the Wilson shoot can be, Ways and Means just kind of became one of those play against horses for me.
Totally fair. Totally fair. If she regresses, not quotes, if she regresses to a low to mid 90s buy, that still puts her right at the top of this group, but by like that much, and not the way she's going to be bet like she's that much better. I get what you're saying.
Correct. And that to me is a lot of where it's like, okay, if she wins, I lose, and that's fine. Because I like, again, the price, if I think she's going to be the heaviest singled horse in the sequence, and I have even inkling of doubt, you kind of have to try and beat her, especially in this 6-horse field where I do think there's some talented horses on the rise. And so because of that, let's take a swing against. I'm just going to go 1-6 here and leave the 4 off. I had the 4 and 3rd, but I'm never going 3 deep in this race and making the 4 on the ticket, right? So for me, it was a pretty easy choice here because I don't like the 2. I don't like the 5 very much. I think the 3 is overmatched. And so it's a 3-horse race in my mind. One of them is going to be sub-even money, and the other 2 are going to be decent prices, and one of them is going to be heavily single. The other 2 won't. That makes the ticket construction part of this rather easy.
Third leg of the All Stakes Pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd. Race 9, the only ungraded stakes on the card. It's 9 older males in the Lure Stakes. These are horses who have not won a graded stakes race in 2024. They're going to route 1 mile and a 16th on the inner turf course. The defending champion of this race, the 8, Smokin' Tea, he returns. But where'd you go on top?
Smokin' Tea almost made the ticket. Just got left off at the last second here. Give me the 1 horse, Kubrick, on top here. Chad Brown, Dettori riding 8-1 on the morning line. Look, I'm not a huge time guy. We don't talk a ton about like how fast a specific race was, but holy balls, the poker was fast. Like they came home in 1:33-4. Ice Chocolat wins that race. Mysterious Night ran second. But not just that. It's not just how fast they came home. It's the fact that, Kubrick was able to save a little bit of ground on the first turn, not much on the second turn, but they went 48 seconds to the half. They came home in 45 seconds from the half. Good luck at making up an inch of ground. Like it looks like this horse ran in place. Good luck of making up any ground here when you have horses that are that good in front of you running that fast. To me, that's like, hey, that's not a bad race at all because there's no chance that he was going to be able to really close in. You go back to the race 2 back over the yielding turf at Keeneland and the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile facing Master of the Seas, Naval Power. Like we don't have many of those horses in here. And now we're getting a better price at 8-1 than we were getting against Master of the Seas and Naval Power, the same price, I should say. I don't think the extra 16th of a mile is a problem. You're going to save ground with this rail trip, which is important on the inside turf. We know the talent's there from that first race at Tampa. We saw her be competitive in group stakes over in Europe, including winning a group 3. Like, I love the price here on the 1. So give me the 1, 8-1 on top.
Dettori riding for Chad is really interesting, and Flavien Prat does not have a mount in this race. And I'm not going to say it's Pratt's fault that he lost because I agree with everything you said. I used Kubrick as well. But if you ignore the fact Dettori and Chad Brown, they're 0-2 at Saratoga together. But if you just look at the other 5 races, they're 2 for 5, so 40%. It's an almost $13 ROI. So not only they're winning, like they're getting home horses. And was it Belmont or Keeneland where they had the Butte Cachet that went gate to wire
Keeneland.
from like post 10. Keeneland, yeah. Horribly annoying, but it's like annoying because you're like, it in hindsight, it's Dettori riding for Chad on the turf. Like, okay, like Dettori's pretty effing good, right? He's still pretty effing good. By the way, the poker you talked about, it looked like this horse ran in place. Everybody ran in place. It was a complete carousel. If you look at the chart, everybody who was in the top 4 early just kind of ran in place. The poker, by the way, Casa Creed was 4th. Carl Spackler was 5th and won a grade 3 Kelso next time out. So he was facing good horses in a carousel setup. Yeah, I'm with you. We're going to use the 1. We're going to move the other one we agreed on, and this should not be any surprise to anybody who's ever watched or listened to the Magic Mike show. We're going to use the 9 more than looks. This was my top pick, and really it's because it's Cherie DeVaux's world, and we're all just kind of lucky to be living in it right now. Cherie DeVaux is clicking off at 29% at the meet so far. She's 5 for 10, literally a coin flip with Irad Ortiz Jr. riding for her. He's aboard for the first time. We haven't seen More Than Looks since he, as a 3-year-old, went to the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile and ran
well.
6th, beaten just 2 lengths in an unbelievably good effort if you watch it back and you also consider Master of the Seas 1. Maj was like the bee's knees at the time. She was 2nd, beaten in nose. Casa F and Creed was 3rd. And he went from last, beaten 14 lengths, to be 6th, beaten just 2 in a photo. And now you're getting the best closing jockey on turf in the entire country, if not the world, in Irad Ortiz Jr. riding. So, yeah, I don't know what else I need to say about More Than Looks other than the 2-to-1 price. Just swallow it and take it.
Yeah. I mean, the poker comments just met her, and then the swallow it and take it. Just getting off track a little bit here. The fact that with Rosario, More Than Looks was able to do that in the Breeders' Cup, even more impressive. No, sorry, I had to take a Rosario shot there. Yeah, look, this is the time to most likely beat More Than Looks. Great, like this is one of the reasons I like betting Cherie DeVoe. Great spot here for More Than Looks. Like, hey, we're going to come back, and specifically in a race where we qualify for because we're off the layoff. It's a great prep race, but that also means More Than Looks might not be fully keyed up. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't put More Than Looks on top. Is like, if you're going to meet More Than Looks at this level, this is the time you do it. And so I had More Than Looks in 2nd here. So for me, it's a horse I'm going to use, but not one that I love. Also, like 2-to-1 is a pipe dream. Much like we talked about Ways and Means at 7-5, it's More Than Looks go off around even money. Like, it just is what it is. You're going to see a shorter price here on this horse because of it. And because this horse is on the outside, because this horse is a closer, those are things I'm not necessarily excited about here, especially on the inner turf at Saratoga. But there is quite a bit of speed in here as well. I mean, the 2 Summer Forever is going to go. The 3 Swiftsure doesn't really matter except for the fact the horse is going to 100% send. Big Everest, the 5, is going to go. Johnny's Fireball as Saya's on the 6. That's another one that's probably going to be tussling for the pace. And that really sets it up for horses to be able to come from off the pace here. So I think because of the setup, it's hard to leave More Than Looks off, especially when, look, if all of these horses were bringing their A game, More Than Looks wins this race. The question is, are you going to get More Than Looks A game? And can Kubrick improve? Because Kubrick would be the one horse that could beat More Than Looks' A game, especially when you're breaking from the 1 on the inside versus breaking from the 9 on that inside turf.
So we agree on those 2. I went 4 deep. You went 3 deep. I'll give out my next one quick. The 4 Irish Aces is 5-1. Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffalione. Again, if you ever listen to watch this, you know I'm going to probably bite on Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffalione together, but for good reason. Not only at Saratoga are they 24% together with a 438 ROI, but just in general, 21% with a flat bet profit. So they run really well, consistently well together. The horse is making the 3rd start of the form cycle here. I think that's key. This is a great distance, mile 16th for the horse. Last time out, if you watched, it was an allowance race. I know that he lost an allowance race going a mile 16th, but he was A, the even money favorite. B, he had a wall of horses blocking him inside the 8th pole. Like, Gaffalione had to go to the outermost rail and almost hit the rail to get this horse clear. And once he did, man, he flew. He kicked right into gear and just missed. And 2 steps past the wire, he was in the lead. But I think this horse is improving. I think he fits at this spot. He, unlike More Than Looks, was a stakes winner. He is not a stakes winner yet, but I think this is a great chance for him to get the job done. Why did you leave him off your ticket?
I didn't like that he lost the last race. I also look at the stakes races, and it's like, well, he wasn't losing to the type of horses that I feel like are in this spot, right? The More Than Looks type horse. I still respect the heck out of Kubrick, obviously picking the horse on top. So this is, in my mind, a pretty decent step up for Irish Aces. And then I agree the trip wasn't perfect. You got to win that race. Like, they went fast early. They went 110. They came home in 6s from a 110. If you're the caliber horse that can win this one, you've got to close into that pace. And it just, like you said, didn't get loose quite early enough. And that's probably why the horse didn't win the race. But at the same time, got loose early enough to be able to run a 139 and 4, which would have won the race, right? And it's just that simple of a thing where I'm like, you got, if with that specific setup, you got to be good enough to win if I'm going to take you in a spot like this. And Irish Aces just wasn't quite good enough to win. 3rd horse on it for me, I am going to go with a horse that won a very similar race to this last year at Saratoga. Won $145,000 stakes race on closing day, closing weekend last year at Saratoga, going a mile and 16th over the turf. Give me Pioneering Spirit, the 7 horse for Linda Rice. It's Linda's world. We just need a free Linda, and we're all living in it. Ortiz on this horse, pretty good. He's got three wins riding this horse, including a win at Saratoga over this turf course. That was going 1 mile and 3/8. Off that, they went into the Grade 1 Sword Dancer and then dropped back down, won the stakes race, then went to the Grade 1 Turf Classic. So they clearly thought highly of this horse last year. And then we've seen this horse go mostly longer distances this year. Mile and 16th is not a problem. He's 1 for 2 going 1 mile and 16th. He's 2 for 5 over this turf course. Reunites with Jose Ortiz. And if this race collapses at all, Pioneering Spirit is one of those horses that is absolutely going to be picking up the pieces. So I'll throw a third horse on that's going to be a price for me, the 7-horse Pioneering Spirit at 12-1.
Listen, if you're going to pick a long shot, you do a lot worse than Pioneering Spirit. He won 5 of 6 races last year. The only loss was the Sword Dancer, and it was Bullshit Ballet and Soldier Rising who beat him in there. So 2 very good horses in that Grade 1 event that you talked about. So the wheels have seemingly fallen off a little bit this year, but maybe he's just waiting for the right race. I'm willing to forgive the Belmont Gold Cup because that's 2 miles. Also, the fact that 3 horses at the end of a 2-mile race, there was a 3-horse photo finish for the win. It always baffles me when that shit happens in a marathon race. But I think that he fits at this race. I didn't put him on my ticket, but again, you could do a lot worse as far as long shots go. Last one for me. I already lost my note. It's the 2. I threw Forever Super on here. Horse is 6-1. He's won 3 of his last 5 races. They were all stakes races that he's been in, but none of them were graded. So that's why he ends up qualifying. The race last time out, I don't think he's a pace horse because he went to the lead. He broke from the rail. It was a 4-horse field, and they didn't go super fast early. He just kind of inherited it. And then Michael Sanchez, who's a damn good jockey in that North Atlantic circuit, just said, all right, I'll take it. And he took it to him. Highland Chief was second. He's been a really good horse at the stakes level before. So he's beaten good horses. I think that he fits. And he's got that good like pocket trip, stalking trip. And I think from this inside post, it's going to help him out a lot. He's 3 wins and 2/3 in 5 starts so far this year. So I think that he fits. I think the distance is right. And I like that I'm going to get 6-1. I think that he'll be forgotten about as well. You've got a lot of horses that Kubrick's probably going to go down from 8-1 because of the name. Irish Aces might go down because of the close loss. Big Everest, we haven't talked about, but he's going to take a bunch of money. Smoking Tea's the defending champ. He'll take money and more than looks could be odds on here. So I think the price will end up being better than 6-1 for Forever Super.
I agree with you on the price. I think you definitely see some drift in here for Forever Super. The class was, for me, the problem. Just hasn't faced anything like this before. Dataman beat him twice in 2 different stakes there in Monmouth and Laurel. Pretty good horse, but like English B ran second in one of those races. Like he'd be crushed in this race, right? And I like English B. I'm an English B fan. So it's just like one of those things when you go through here and you're like, well, Highland Chief was in that last one. Yeah, but like you said, kind of walked on the lead slower. Like it just, I'm not sure that Forever Super has seen this level. However, I do agree with you. If you're going to take a price here, Forever Super probably goes off at 8-10-1, and you're going to end up with worse horses at that number all day at Saratoga. So to me, Forever Super does fit from that perspective. If you're looking to go deeper, for me, I just went 3 deep. I would have considered the 8. I would have considered the 2 if I was going to go 4 deep. But I ended up with just the 1, the 7, and the 9.
The penultimate leg of the All Stakes Pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd. It's the Grade 2 Troy Stakes race time, which by the way, I think it's the first year it's a Grade 2. It's always been a Grade 3. So glad to see a really tremendous turf sprint race get some much deserved credit. And to talk about at the top of the show, you have a world record holder at this distance, at this track. Last time out, it's Cogburn. He's 4-5. Did you single him in this race?
No, I didn't. I mean, he's the likely winner, right? Let's just be honest. The horses, if we get a repeat of the Jaipur, he wins for fun, blah, 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 blah. But this is turf sprinting. It's hard to repeat one of those races, especially when it was as fast as the Jaipur was. And he's going to, again, get bet off the board. I'm going to use Cogburn, but I'm not going to single him in this spot, although he is the top pick here. What about yourself?
Did not single the horse either. No, I went 2 deep and we used the same 2 horses there, and you threw a third one on here. But it's like Kevin says, like, if you want to get paid, this is probably the leg to do it. And if I was going to be the most scared of singling a race, it's a turf sprint, especially going 5.5 furlongs, because one tiny thing goes wrong, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, that's why one of the reasons I think people are going to spread here. One of the reasons why I don't think Cogburn is going to be over singled is that you do have a turf sprint field with 11. It's going to be 10. Thin White Duke ran last week, so I'd be surprised if we see Thin White Duke wheel around on that fast of a rest. But I don't. I understand why people would single Cogburn, though. He's been very, very good. I will talk about the one horse who you are not using. I'm going to include on my ticket. I'm going to go 3 deep. Give me Mischief Magic. William Buick back for Appleby. This is one of those spots where, like, I love it when horses switch post position luck. And Mischief Magic was in the 12-12 post last time in the Jaipur. Good luck at doing anything with that. Was in the 7-14 in the turf sprint. It was crowded. Didn't really get the lane that he wanted to run through until it was too late in the race. So in my mind, that was a tough race or an easier one to chuck out. Now we draw to the inside. Now we draw a better post for a horse that's going to want to come from off the pace. If Buick can find the trip, I think that this horse has a legitimate shot to be able to make some serious noise at 6-1. We'll see if he's good enough to flip the table on Cogburn. That's going to be the biggest question because it's going to be hard. Cogburn, if he goes out and runs like he did the last couple, he's going to be very tough in this spot. But I do think that Mischief Magic has a chance this race versus last time. I don't think he really had a prayer breaking from all the way on the outside.
Breaking from the outside, and once again, Cogburn set the world record time for 5.5 furlongs, 59-4 flat. Pretty damn. I mean, he went 5-4 for seconds to the finish there, and it was just almost effortless there. Mischief Magic was the last horse off the ticket for me. I went 3 deep in the Whitney Stakes. Instead of going 2 deep there, I would have gone 3 deep here and used Mischief Magic. I think the inside post is not going to bother him because he is a take back and make one big ass run. Charlie Appleby 2 for 3 right now at Saratoga. So Appleby very wisely this year targeting Saratoga, has been keeping his horses here. He shipped them over to get them ready at Belmont and in Kentucky. So they're not just going to be shipped right in and let's see how they perform. Let's get them comfortable and let's keep targeting all these big money races. So I really hope I don't regret leaving Mischief Magic off. We both use Cogburn. I don't think we really need to talk much about why. The world record holder is 5 for 5 at the distance. To me, he's drawn perfectly. He's right in the middle of everything. He's got Irad Ortiz Jr. back aboard. Yada, yada, yada. The other horse we're using, one we've both been on for a little bit, it's your boy Jorge Duarte Jr. training the 8 Grooms All Business. Now, we know Duarte is a master turf sprint trainer. He's 24% with a $3.19 ROI. The horse is making 3rd start off the layoff. Prior to this year, his career best buyer was a 96, came in the Get Serious Stakes at Monmouth last year. That was 3rd start off the layoff. So he's got 97 and 95 buyers this year that are right there, kind of bookending the middle of his best buyer last year. He should get close to a triple-digit buyer, if not eclipse it, if he wins this race. So we're in on Grooms All Business. For me, I was trying to find a new shooter because every other horse in here has lost to Cogburn at least once. He hasn't done that yet. So maybe he can sneak in there and be like, all right, I'm going to come in here, gonna beat you. And how about Dylan Davis? I mean, you know, he played Saratoga. 22% at the meet right now, and we're almost a month into it. Dylan Davis is quietly having himself a smoke show of a meet right now.
And it's been prices too. It hasn't been like Dylan Davis winning on 7-5 shots like Irad just did. It's Dylan Davis winning on 12-1 horses and prices left, right, and center. I love the pickup of Dylan Davis here for Jorge Duarte Jr. I probably could make an argument, much like Cherie DeVoe. I'm a little too into Jorge Duarte Jr. When it comes to betting horses. I've talked about him a ton on this podcast, talked about him over on VSiN. This horse is a horse that I have given out twice in a row on VSiN the last 2 races and won both of those at 5-1 and 6-1 and 4-1. I mean, I don't mind the 8-1 price here. This is a horse that's getting better. Duarte Jr. only trains for Colts Next Stables, right? So if you don't know, that's why he only has 48 starts. He only trains these horses. They don't have a ton of horses. He is very specific with where he places horses, especially on big days. If he's shipping a horse in for Whitney Day, and if you look at like, well, what were those other ways? Oh, Pimlico, that was Preakness Day. Mount Monmouth, that was Haskell Day. Now we're shipping in here. You just kind of have to look at it and say, okay, nope, I believe that this horse is going to fire a big shot here. Duarte's not going to overplace. If he believes the horse fits, he's going to put the horse to fit. I like this idea here, and I like getting Dylan Davis. I think the horse has tactical speed, so we're not going to be too far behind Cogburn. That's the one knock I have really on Mischief Magic is you're coming from the clouds. Grooms All Business should come from mid-pack to close pack and be able to try and run down the 6. So, yeah, I'm 168 here. If you want to get super aggressive, it's 1-8 and hope that you get through and see if you can make something happen. If you want to get super aggressive and play a short ticket and single cog run, I also get that. But to me, it's a spot where, because we tried to beat Ways and Means, I'm okay with using cog run in this spot and trying to get one of the prices home.
Fifth and final leg of the All Stakes Pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd. Race 11. It's the Grade 1 Whitney Stakes. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Last year's Whitney winner, White Abarrio, went off and won the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's not in here, but we do have a horse that has beaten White Abarrio before, and that is the number 3 National Treasure, your 9-5 favorite, carrying co-highway Bob Baffert, Flavian Pratt, but it's a field of 12. It might be a field of 11. It sounds like Il Miracolo will scratch because Antonio Sano looked at the field and he went,
yeah,
we don't stand a chance in hell, so we're going to go to Monmouth Park instead. So still a field of 11. Where'd you go on top?
Man, a fun field too. Like I realize this isn't, you don't have the superstar in here. I guess you could say National Treasure is a superstar, but I don't think of him in that manner, I guess. Even though he did win the Pegasus World Cup Invitational and ran well in the Saudi Cup, 4th there, won that mile. I couldn't put him on top. There's enough other speed in here that I don't think that he just gets absolutely loose. I think that's when you're going to see the best version of him. I think you do get some pressure. And I'm going to go to a horse where I think I might be higher on than most people, and I'm going to give one more chance to, and that's the 9 horse here, Bright Future, who looked good in the Salvatore Mile. I actually like this horse a little bit in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year at 17-1. Returned for the 4-year-old or 5-year-old season last time out. Won convincingly in that mile as a favorite. Really should have won. Didn't get the easiest trip. Was kind of stuck on the inside. And if you look at like the running line, it's an odd one because it's 4-4-6. Got shuffled back mid-race and then kind of just had to go out and take care of business and was clearly the best horse and was able to do that, take care of business. This is a horse that ran very, very well, going 1.25 miles in the Jockey Club Gold Cup here at Saratoga last year from just off the pace. Yeah, beat Proxy, we all know isn't wonderful. But second off a layoff, second out as a 5-year-old, you should see some improvement here. Could easily run a career best buyer in this spot. And Castellano, 3 for 3, perfect on this horse. It's a Pletcher horse who's coming into it. It's another reason why you should expect some improvement here. With some of the horses, and like the 11, I know Michael just mentioned it, Arthur's Ride, an interesting horse who, like, what do you do with that one? 100% going to go and cause National Treasure trouble, I'll tell you that much. I think Bright Future has a very good chance of stepping forward and sitting a very good trip in this spot and doing so. Give me the 9, Bright Future, 5-1 on top.
I was slightly surprised he showed up just because I thought when he made his big return in the Salvatore Mile, clearly this is a prep for longer. His best races are the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the career high buyer of 103. It was 1.25 miles. I thought for sure that they would just target that race again. Last year, he exited the Brooklyn, a really bad 8th, going 1.5 miles in the Brooklyn. Just wasn't ready for that race. Came back and could have gone to the Whitney. Instead, they went to the allowance, going this same distance over Saratoga, and he got that big win. I'm going to pass on Bright Future here and play him back in the Jockey Club Gold Cup because I think that's the spot to beat him or to play him there. I think here he's a good underneath use. I just don't see him winning, but absolutely respect the horse and what he's done so far. And most of it, he throws up a clunker once in a while, but I feel like you can usually throw up a reason why he has a clunker. National Treasure's top pick for me. His Met Mile win this year, the most impressive dirt victory we've seen from him yet. And this is a horse that won the Preakness Stakes, won the Pegasus World Cup, was a shoulder banging nose away from beating Cody's Wish and everybody burning down the Santa Anita grandstands in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I'll still never forget how nervous I was when not for betting, was just what was the reaction going to be if the inquiry, if National Treasure got promoted over Cody's Wish in his final career start. That would have been scary.
Something.
It would have been something. I'm just glad we weren't there for that. Listen, National Treasure is only 1 for 4 at this distance, which is why one of the reasons why I didn't single him here. But that win was 3 back in the Pegasus. I think if you draw a line from the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and look at everything forward and ignore everything that he did behind that, he has progressed as an older horse. And also in the Pegasus, he showed he can sit off the pace and still have enough to win, holding off Senior Buscador late. I think it's going to be similar to another finish there in this race that we saw that time in the Pegasus World Cup, where he wins, but there's somebody, it might be Bright Future, somebody's flying at him late to get there. But Flavien Prat riding, Bob Baffert sending this horse back to Saratoga after winning the Whitney. You used him. I put him on top, but I think it's a horse that I think it'd be nuts to try and beat him here. I don't see, if he shows up with his best effort, nobody's beating him, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like that, and that's what makes this race so interesting. I think this is a phenomenal betting race. Like, yeah, we could talk about this race alone for an hour, because of who's in here. I mean, like you mentioned, he brings his best race that no one can beat him. Like, what about Arthur's Ride? What if Arthur's Ride is just that good? And like, I'm not using Arthur's Ride. I'm scared of Arthur's Ride, but like Arthur's Ride's been phenomenal in the last race, specifically going a mile and a quarter. It was the first time stretching out. He's going to be a headache every step of the way for National Treasure. I think that's going to be one of the most interesting parts about this race. It's why, like, if you want to take a shot against National Treasure, I don't hate it. I mean, I think there's better races. There's worse races to try and take shots against the favorite. And a lot of it comes down to what you think of National Treasure. And I have changed a little bit. Like, I have changed from, can only win on the lead, isn't that good of a horse, Preakness winning National Treasure, to 4-year-old National Treasure, who I think is clearly better than what he was at 3 and has the ability to keep going. So you kind of have to adjust your bias internally and say, nope, this horse is a little bit better. And that's one of the reasons I am using. But if Arthur's Ride just goes at National Treasure and the two of them hook up, it's going to set up for an absolutely wild finish in this spot. It's one of the reasons I have Bright Future on top. I did use Arthur's Ride. And then I'm going to be a sucker. I'm going to go back to Disarm. I'm going to use Disarm again here. I'm so upset with Disarm and what he did last time out in the Stephen F. Foster. If you go back, like, he just looks like a different horse. He looks like he grew up. He looks like he grew into himself. And then he absolutely just puked down his shirt last time in the Stephen F. Foster for no reason. For absolutely no reason. Like, this was like Eminem before he became a rabbit or whatever. He's throwing up his mono spaghetti all over himself. Like, this is just not what I expected from Disarm last time. You go back and you look what he did, running 4 back-to-back 100-plus buyers, including running second in the Travers, winning the Matt Win last year. Like, clearly a horse who's fine with his track. 1 for 3, can handle the distance. 1 for 3 there as well. 15-1 is a wild price in this spot, because let's say that you do have National Treasure and Arthur's Ride hook up. Doesn't that play right into someone like Disarm's hands? Like, shouldn't Rosario be able to sit mid-pack on the rail with this horse and be able to sweep around into the turn and make a big move? Like, yes, all of that should. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put Disarm on the ticket against my better judgment. At least we get a price and a weight break here. So give me the 2, the 3, and the 9 to try and get through here.
Listen, Disarm's my second pick in this race.
Well,
I thought, if you go back and listen, when we covered the Foster card at Churchill, I was saying this horse is on his way to being, he might not win here, but he's going to keep progressing and be a tough horse in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And he's going to need to progress, because I don't know if he can get much worse than the Foster. I don't have an excuse for that. But the fact that Asmussen immediately runs him back in the Grade 1 Whitney, which is looking like, I think this is the toughest dirt handicap horse field since the Pegasus back in January. From top to bottom in terms of the talent, the pace dynamics, who all is in this race. He put together 4 straight 100-plus buyers as a 3-year-old. 2 of those were over this track. He didn't win either of them, but he was right there with the best horses in the crop at Saratoga. And you were talking about the pace. There's a lot of pace that seems like they're signed up on paper, and that benefits him. The Foster, if there's one excuse I could give him for the Foster, it's that the top 4 finishers were top 4 all throughout the race. There was no movement at all in the top 4. Disarm didn't break all that well, tried to make a move, didn't really have anything, but that's because nobody in front of him was coming back to him. So I'm with you, buddy. We're getting we're never going to get 15-1 on Disarm. Even if he runs second in here, we're never going to get that kind of price on him again. So we'll use Disarm. And then I used a third horse. I did go to Arthur's Ride. I threw that horse on. This is the one that I used instead of Mischief Magic. So if Mischief Magic wins and Arthur's Ride is off the board, I will never forgive Junior. No, I'm kidding. It's just the choice that I'm making here. But if you ignore 2 races back when he was in the slop and broke like shit, going a 1-turn mile at Churchill Downs, you've got a horse that is buyers are 74, 83, 89, 101, 111 in that first time trying 2 turns. And sure, he broke from the rail. He had everything his own way. But to break his maiden at Gulfstream Park, he was pressing the pace. Race before that at Saratoga, he just missed to Instant Coffee, who was doing pretty well at that time and was a good early 3-year-old, very early 3-year-old, because then the wheels came off. But he was right there with those horses, but he was coming from off the pace. I don't think he's a need the lead type. I think that's just what he's always had. He's just kind of naturally quick enough out of the gate to be there. He broke from the rail last time out. Field of 9, nobody wanted the lead. He took it and off he went. Field of 6 at Gulfstream Park. He was part of that early pace. Nobody went with him when he started to kick in. So he's the big unknown. And at 8-1, with Bill Mott, who could go to any stakes race anywhere with this horse nice through his conditions, he could go to Monmouth. He could go to there's other stakes races coming up at Saratoga that are not graded or not the grade 1 Whitney. Out of that race to go, we're going right to the grade 1 Whitney, knowing that National Treasure is going to be there, knowing that a lot of the best older dirt handicap horses are going to be in this race. I love the aggressiveness of Mott with Junior Alvarado keeping the mount here. So I did throw Arthur's Ride on him here, but the post is nerve-wracking. He's going to be outside the other speed. If he isn't a horse that, doesn't need the lead, then I think he's in a lot of trouble. But I'm banking on the fact that he might just not need the lead. He's just been naturally quick enough to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's just going to be interesting, and I agree. The Olympiad vibes are there too. Like this is the wild card. This is the wild card in this field because you don't know. Like Arthur's Ride might be the best older male in the country. He also may not be able to tie the saddle on for some of these guys, right? Like it's that crazy of a gap that you could possibly have here with these horses because of what we know from him. He's just not tested. And so you're going to see it on Saturday, whether or not he fits with this level or not. And so it's one of those, like, and we always talk about the knowns versus the unknowns. And do you want to play the unknown? Well, in this case, the unknown is the 11 Arthur's Ride. And the question is the price. Like at 8-1, I don't think we're getting 8-1. I actually think Arthur's Ride might actually be the second choice when they break from the gate. It's going to be interesting from a price perspective. Like, but then you add in the post, like it's really, really hard. Who do you like? Okay. So Chris Mello, what price does Disarm become unplayable? 15-1 seems too high. I agree. I don't think we're getting 15-1. I think rank the top 5 in odds in this race because Skippy Longstocking ain't going to be number 4. I'll tell you that much. Skippy Longstocking won't be getting bet. Like, I think National Treasure 100% is the favorite.
Yep.
Who's 2, 3, 4 on the board?
I think Bright Future is your second pick. Second choice, odds wise, once they break. I think First Mission floats a little bit because Brad Cox has been pretty cold. And I have a whole theory about, I don't want to get into it right now, but I have a whole theory about why Brad Cox is ice cold right now. Arthur's Ride, I think, comes down. Skippy Longstocking, I see come down. So I think the 10 and 11 benefit the most, like their prices come down the most, and you see First Mission float up a bit. I'm not great at projecting odds, but I would be surprised if Disarm is less than 10-1 in this race.
I think we're going to get around 10-1. Yeah. I think that's my guess. I think you're going to see money. I think National Treasure is going to be the favorite. I think Bright Future and Arthur's Ride are 2-3, and it's close, right? Somewhere in there. And then I think the First Mission is most likely right after that. And then I think we're going to see a gap. Like I think you're going to see those 4 horses short. I think Skippy's going to float up because no one really wants to bet Skippy Longstocking to win anymore, right? Especially in this type of field. Yeah. And so I think Skippy floats up, and I think that means Disarm comes out a little bit or down a little bit, but not all the way to like 6-1. And playable. If I'm putting in a win bet, I want double digits. I think that's the number I'm looking for. 10-1 or better if I want to bet Disarm to win.
Skippy Longstocking is that classic horse of you would love. I mean, there's few horses that you would love to own more than him, where he's still going strong into his 5-year-old career. But you buy him for $37,000, and he's earned almost $2.4 million. Like that's pretty good. If you eliminate the grade 1 races on his form, just completely don't even, scratch all of them out. This is one of the best horses in the dirt male division. It's just when he gets to that grade 1 level, there's always a reason that he does not fire.
I'm watching Saratoga's 9th or 7th right now. They took Irad down on a 7-5 favorite, which is awfully rare. I guess he cut the 2 off on the inside. I had the 1 at 18-1. And this stinking horse didn't beat the 2 to the wire, else it would end up winning. But I wanted to see the replay.
You said they took Irad down on a favorite in New York. It hasn't frozen over out there yet, but it's looking like it might get a little close. It's pretty cloudy outside.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Yeah, they took him down on the favorite. Man, if this one had gotten up to second at 18-1, they would have put him in front of the 2. Oh, that would have been nice. That would every now and then you just want to get one of those lucky breaks when your horse was never ever winning. but wins a photo for second, and the third place horse got cut off by the winner. Those are the type of ones that you just never seen like that. That's when it's you're dancing between the raindrops.
That's good of this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining us to talk about the All Stakes Pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, August 3rd. Reminder, it's races 7 through 11. And I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but it is a mandatory payout on this pool. It's a 15% takeout. So a better Pick 5 pool than you'll normally see at Saratoga, which they actually have a few different really good Pick 5s. There's also one that's an all-turf one that's covering Friday and Saturday. Fingers crossed that the rain keeps it on the turf. Otherwise, that was one of the reasons with the rain possibly coming in, I didn't want to play that sequence, but we considered that one as well. For the audio listeners on podcast, we'll read out our tickets one last time. If you're watching us on video, take a look down below. I'm going to start off and I'm going to go 3, 4, 8 with 1, 4 with 1, 2, 4, 9 with 6, 8 with 2, 3, 11. That's $72 for me, Mr. Somich.
I'm going to spend a little bit more money. I'm going to 81. Give me the 3, 4, 7 with 1, 6 with 1, 7, 9 with 1, 6, 8 with 2, 3, 9, $81 for 50 cents.
All right. Pedlo wants to know about. All right. So I'm not trying to get too much into this because it's someone's personal life and they're going through something. But Brad Cox was married to his wife was his vet. She was an equine vet, is an equine vet. You remember when he was at Remington Park for Springboard Mile Day and all of his horses had to scratch? The vet, I'm assuming was his wife, accidentally gave them the wrong drugs. So no, you can't say my bad now, Pedlo. No, we're already in the shit now. So anyways, Brad Cox seems to be going through a divorce. And over the last few months, we've heard reports, people asking like, well, who's this woman that he's been seen with a lot? It's his assistant trainer. But if you draw a line back to around the time when everybody started going, who's this new woman that Brad Cox is with all the time? And you draw a line there and you look at the performances of his horses, there seems to have been a decline in their performance. And anyways, that's my theory about why Brad Cox has been very ice cold. And I think it's an understandable reason. And now, Pedlo, aren't you really, Pedlo, as we're talking about all this? Okay. Anyways, that's my theory on that one. And now Pedlo is, if he wasn't going to hell earlier for all of his comments, I think that one might have just done it.
It's interesting, the incestuousness inside of the backstretch of horse racing.
Oh boy.
Like some of the stories that you hear going around, it's awfully crazy. I mean, obviously the Chad Brown and Saratoga ones are legendary, but even like the different stories you hear from certain people that we know on the backstretch of certain places of what's happened, it's like it's like a summer camp on the backstretch for 16-year-olds every single meet. It's crazy what's going on. But yeah, that's not a terrible theory. Not a terrible theory for a couple reasons. The changing a vet can be difficult in horse racing sometimes, and also the emotional strain that having,
yes.
The emotional strain that they're going through divorces, I'm sure not easy, especially when you're working as much as there you go, band camp on the backstretches.
It's like band camp, but instead of flutes, it's jockey crops, right?
Yes. Ooh.
That's good. Episode of the Magic Mike Show. We got to get out of here before we get canceled. Thank you so much for being with us. Follow us on Twitter if you still want to at this point. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. I'll be on FanDuel TV Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday this week, including 5:30 to 8:30 in the morning, Saturday, solo in the studio. So I've got a lot of energy drinks lined up to keep me going through that one. Where can people watch you and when?
I will be on VSiN tomorrow, 2 to 3 Pacific, 5 to 6 Eastern on Sharp Money, doing an hour there to close out their week. Patrick back tomorrow, Dustin back tomorrow, so the boys all back together. And then for Saturday and Sunday, 9 to noon Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific on the handle. We'll have horse racing picks both Saturday and Sunday in the Pony Up segment there. And tonight, we've got NFL football, the Hall of Fame game tonight. I don't know if you knew this, but the Chicago Bears taking on the Houston Texans in the preseason between two of the most hyped teams in the NFL. I laid the 2 with the Texans. I like them even more in the second half. I love the idea of betting them second half because you are getting terrible quarterbacks for the Chicago Bears when they're down to the 3rd and 4th string. The 3rd string for the Houston Texans, Case Keenum, more than capable of playing quarterback, especially in the preseason. Give me the better depth at quarterback when you're handicapping preseason. Give me the Texans -2, and especially the Texans second half at minus a field goal or less.
Dave Weaver's going to be at Remington. Listen, I'd wish I'm like, if there was a totem pole for people, like the ranking order at FanDuel for who gets sent out to places first, I'm so far down. I'm actually the post that's in the ground that you can't even see. Yeah.
You're holding it down. You're holding it down at the bottom in studio.
That's you know what? That's a nice way of looking at it. Tune into Mike on VSiN with everything he just mentioned. I'll be on FanDuel TV. If you're mad about not being able to play New York tracks on Twin Spires, sign up on FanDuel TV or FanDuel Racing app. There's a $500 no sweat first bet. You can get up to $500 bet back in racing credits on your first bet when you sign up. And that's, by the way, if you have a TVG account and you haven't switched over to FanDuel, that's also eligible for you as well. So Abraham Trusty, I saw you guys were talking about being PO'd about that. Go check it out right there. Make sure you check out Blinkers Off. They'll be live here in a little bit. The Hawthorne live show is going to be on in 41 minutes. So I've got to get out of here, get some shit done, and then come right back for that one. And then we got Dudes After Dark Friday. So covering Del Mar for the early pick 5. So lots going on the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.